Hello, and welcome to the Best of TSL with There's Still Life. There's Still Life is a nonprofit spiritual growth ministry that promotes spiritual growth, maturity, and transformation in the lives of people. We are excited to be celebrating 20 years of ministry, and throughout the remainder of this year, we're going into our archives to bring you the best of TSL.
Hello and welcome to our 31-day podcast in the month of July. So glad you've joined us. Today is day 1 and we are talking about it is time to move. Time to move. In day 1, I talk about movement in my book. I also talk about D.A. Collinsworth, the fishbowl theory. However, today I want to talk about a couple of thoughts not talked about inside of the book. You don't always have to be moving. Okay, I know some people always have to be moving. You probably have some family or some friends like that. They always have to be doing something. And that's fine when the movement is productive, okay? Movement does not automatically mean that there's productivity. So that's something I want you to keep in mind. It's also easy to assume that all movement is forward movement, but understand that there are some times when we have to take a couple of steps back in order to move forward in another direction. I'm sure some of you listening probably have experienced that in life. I certainly have. There may even be some loss in this, but it's okay because after we reset, it is going to allow movement forward again, okay? We don't want to be stagnant or stationary, and let me tell you why. So when we talk about being stagnated, usually that means no activity. It relates to being sluggish, okay? So if you relate that to a body of water, so think about a puddle of water, and after time, there's no movement, water can't leave, water can't come in. It will begin to smell or even become toxic, okay? So we don't want to be stagnated. And we also don't want to be stationary because then in a stationary place, there's no intention of movement, okay? I want you to think about being in a still place. Being in a still place. There may not be movement. But it's no movement with the purpose of being calm or quiet. So when we are in still places, it's for the purpose of being calm or quiet. It is when we're in this still place that I believe we'll be able to hear when it's time to move and what that movement should look like. Okay, what's the plan? What are the next steps? So that's a little bit about how I see movement or some thoughts I had around movement. Hopefully it provokes some thoughts in you as well. Now let's talk about goldfish because I did some research regarding goldfish that I found interesting. Goldfish originated in ancient China and they were a food source, okay? And they were highly valuable. They were considered sacred. However, now we know that they're really common and treated as disposable. I can remember when my son was young, I know for a fact we disposed of few goldfish in our time. So goldfish were breeded from a carp, which was a dull gray or greenish color fish. And get this, the mutilations produced a yellowish or gold color fish, and those fish would be displayed in clay pots or other types of containers inside of the home. Now, yellow represented royalty, so it was the orange fish that were the most commonly breeded fish amongst the commoners. People would display them in ponds, and then over time, the deformities made them really fragile, so then they would be kept inside, and that was the creation of the domesticated fish that we know today. Interesting, right? Again, where we end up in the podcast may not be the message for that day in my book, and I encourage you to purchase a copy of my book to support our mission here with There's Still Life. But you have a carp that is undesirable, And the imperfection or defects produce colorful fish that cause it to be desired. Okay? Our growth process takes those undeveloped parts of us, those incomplete parts of us, the downright ugly parts of us. And what I thought about is that our growth process matures those parts of us and produces something desirable. I even thought about being desirable by others as company. So the people we want around us, the people we want to be around. I remember when God matured me in the area of negativity. And to this day, I work on not being a negative person. I desire the company of positive people. Okay? I don't like negativity because I know that it can easily affect me. And I want to be positive and desirable to others. Okay? Let me share something with you. It's a growth principle. When you experience growth in an area of your life, you will begin to desire to be surrounded by that same level of maturity. Okay? Let me say that again because I really want you to understand that that's how you know, one of the ways that you know that growth is taking place, the maturity that you're experiencing, you want to be around that same level of maturity. I want you to be careful. That doesn't mean we experience growth, and for those who haven't experienced that level of maturity, they get kicked to the curb. That is not what I'm saying. I'm simply sharing a growth principle. Think about it this way. The people who were patient with us while we were trying to get it together, there's going to be others. There are going to be others who need us to be that for them. So that's a good way to think about that. So again, just stating a simple growth principle. So some takeaways. The goldfish was birthed from something that was not desirable, right? It was the imperfections of the undesirable thing that birthed forth something desirable. Some of you, some of us may be in situations, and it may not look pretty now, but it doesn't mean that we are not able to birth something great. That is the message that I want you to walk away with today, that you can, in fact, birth something great. God has made a deposit in all of us. It is in the still place that He develops us so that when it is our time to move, we can do so, and we do so expecting to birth something great. Now, understand, it may take some time, but I can birth something great. I'm just trying to learn. I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to understand it, and that's fine. But understand, I can birth something great. Again, that is the message for you today. It's time to move, go, get moving, get in motion, and birth something great. I thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you'll join us again on tomorrow. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and that today's podcast prompted a new attitude, a new perspective, or a new outlook that would help you define moments in your life. We invite you to invest in your copy of Defining Moments, Define Your Moment, Change Your Life on Amazon. Simply search for Defining Moments by Nichole A. Davis. All proceeds go directly to There's Still Life to help enable us to continue our teaching mission. You can also purchase your copy directly from There's Still Life. Just inbox or message us on Facebook at There's Still Life, or request your copy by email at there'sstilllife@gmail.com.